So, at the present, we have obtained this perfect human birth, and because of not knowing, what is to be, what is to be cultivated and what is to be abandoned, abandoned. But therefore, we are still wandering, and actually, all the beings, who all wants to have happiness and do not want to have suffering. We use all kinds of methods to bring happiness and to eliminate suffering. And if we do not have wish for happiness, then that's all. But as long as we have a wish, we all have wish to be happy, and we use many kind of methods to bring happiness for oneself. But those using so many methods and looking for so many things, don't find happiness. That's because of not knowing what is to cultivate and what is to abandon. So actually, there are many different kinds of beings. Like there's the beings are categorized into 6 types of beings. And among these 6 realms of beings, the humans are considered, the best to be able to distinguish between what is to be abandoned and what is to be cultivated. And the human beings, they have great potential to do any kinds of things, like bad things or good things, if they want to do good things, and they have the the most powerful means to do good things, and if they want to do bad things like bringing harms to others or and something like that, and the human beings they have most powerful or most potential to do that also. So since it is regarded very important to have kind heart, nobody wish to nobody wish to act in a bad way, and everybody wants to act in good ways. And we look for so many methods to bring happiness for oneself, and actually there's no other no better means to bring happiness for oneself and others than the Dharma, and also not only in this life but also in many future lives, in many future lives. The Dharma is the best means to bring happiness. So all of you here who came to participate in the course must have wish to have happiness, and seeing that through the Dharma that one can gain the real happiness. So and also we can bring happiness through depending on external and external things such as like medicines or food and so forth. But just by the means of the external things, there's no way one can attain the ultimate happiness or the real happiness. So because the external things only can bring comfort and happiness to the physical body, but it cannot bring real happiness to our mind. Although the external things can give happiness to the body, but it cannot bring happiness to the mind. So, but through depending on the common law of cause and effect, such what's to be abandoned and what's to be cultivated, by depending on this method, one can bring happiness to both body and mind. So actually, the internal mind is regarded more important than external body, but it's also very difficult to identify what is the mind. Actually, the internal mind actually does exist, but you cannot point and say this is the mind. But everything dependent on mind.
난 최선도 나는 쓰는 거니까 또 사사이는 좀
So, when we say about saying that practicing Dharma, it means like, something to do with internal mind.
사실 최선도 그런데 그렇게 하면 그런 거 그게 라벨 세계는 아주 뭐 생기 되는데 그 앞에 그냥 달라야 하는 그 그거만 모두 봐. 그래서 이게 하나라고 그래. 좀 더 제가 그래도 인들 막 그래서 소소도 그러는 거 possibly get which are
So, actually the Dharma is not kind of a system or custom, but there are many tradition of, the Dharma. But all these are, it's kind of an instruction to, to bring happiness, for the mind and both and the body.
I think that's done the building of the more challenge in the way of children and
So actually, there are many kinds of religions or dharma in this, in the world. But one can inspect and see, which one is more beneficial to bring real happiness to one's mind and body.
That's the question with the end. So about the
And in some religions, they accept that the things are created, and there's the creator to create the things. There are many religions who believe that the things are everything in a human being, all the whole world is created by gods and so on. But in Buddhist religion, in Buddhist religion, we do not accept that the things are created by by other by gods or others. But I think most of the religions, they all believe in the karmic law of cause and effect. And in Buddhism, we mainly believe in the karmic law of cause and effect, and believe that if you act good, then you will receive happiness, and if you act bad, then you will receive suffering. And so this, so having mind, a harsh mind, through having harsh mind, one receives the suffering, and through having peaceful mind or kind mind, and one receives happiness. And some also believe that the mind is connected with, mind is the brain. Brain is the mind. So, but in Buddhism, we do not believe that the mind is a subtle particle or something form which can be seen. And actually, the mind is formless, and it is it derives from the previous state of mind. The present mind derives from the previous state of mind, and it said that the formless comes from formless, not from the form. So therefore, one realizes automatically that there is the past and future lives.
that's some sort of wrong. I'm not going to medicine or some social or food you say, or some because the juice will do down, they go on as
So, but if one accepts that the mind is the form and it can be seen, then and it is difficult to say that there's the past and future lives.
생각보다 주의해야 되는데 방법 사전에 생각 토마도 모두 이야기는 뭐 처음에 왔는데 뭐냐면 생각 거기는 이거서 다 판단해 줘 가지고 설명을 때문에 인간은 고쳐가는 거가
So, if we check the where the mind came from, then this mind came from the mind of from the mind of the past life, and that came from the past life of the past life, like this, And when we, there's no beginning of the mind, and there's also there's no end of the mind. One cannot say the mind will stop at that point. One cannot point and say at that point the mind will stop. So because of that, one will easily believe that there is past and future lives.
난 저번에 코로나 타만에 살았어요. 저기가 그 생각 타만에 하고 영어를 써야 되고
So actually there's beginning of this world, but there's no beginning of the mind.
어디 인간한테는 그게 생각되는 지금이 영어만에 야야 쓰이는 게 타만에 마음 한테는 그게 진짜는 그 영어 쓰는 봐. 그래? 지금 나와서 쓰는데 파이는 거 가고 요즘은 많이 준 강남이나 쓴거 준셔야 되는
So when we check about the mind into our past, then we cannot find the beginning of the mind, and also when we see to our mind into the future, then there's no one won't see the end of the mind.
봤는데 막 주면서 말이요. 우리가 냈던데요. 감감을 아니지. 생콜을 가고 뜬데 김준일 거. 생콜을 뜬데 김준일 거 내가 쓰고 뜬데 내가 김준일 김준일이 교화되는 거가 인식해요. 그러니까 하는지 김준일이 교화 생각을 지나가는 거라고 생각해요. 교화 용어를 그냥 교화입니다. 김준일이 하는데 김준일이 하는 가고 있고 근데 가서 내가
And so since the mind, mind has no end, so therefore actually mind also is has this called mind and mental factor. So mental factor is there's in mental factor there's virtuous mental factor and non-virtuous mental factor. So the mind which brings happiness is called a virtuous mental factor, and which brings suffering is called non-virtuous mental factor.
나는 생각 많은 가지 세우는데 경험만 되걸려면 안 되든 부자는 거 세워서 야고에 야고에 얻어 왔다. 한김이 제가 야고에 세우면 야고에 세워서 부자에 세워서 뭐는 나 경험만 내도 가능하게 그래야 안 돼. 내가 상관없는 거야. 막 아무것도 딱 해도 이게
And so when we see into the mind like in this way, then one will see that one has created many kinds of actions like negative actions and positive actions, and positive actions because of that sometimes we have good result and sometimes we have bad results. So through understanding that the mind has no beginning and it has one has created so many kinds of actions, and then one will understand that that is that one has created negative actions, and through experiencing the results, then one will understand what kind of actions one has created.
나 경험만 들어가는데 그거를 그냥 말아봐. 이내 경험만 들으시더니 이제 방송이 있어가지고 맞지 잡아주고 나 컴퓨터나 두고나 실천하고 남식 공부도 하고 컴퓨터나 두고나 실천을 방법 제외는 뭐 방법에 컴퓨터나 두고나 이제 태워는 맞지 제외는 뭐 패패패패대로 뭐 방법을 해야 되고 내려서.
So one cannot point and say this was the past life, but from the action from the result that we experience now, and we can find out what kind of actions one has performed in one's past lives. All the actions that one has performed, like negative actions or positive actions, or are in the stored in our mental continuum, in our mental continuum, just like you store programs or things inside the computer.
这那是一个方法，但俺这边当然是觉得呢，是看不到这东西的，不像我前一年我看不到这东西，我这样的话，这些我们就讲学过嘛，学过套呢，俺教俺们比较学的这样嘛，找东西啊，要我前一年要我这个样要看的话的嘛，这样的，超出别人不要的，教俺们这么要嘛，对吧？因为我这个菩萨这个可能也看不到这东西的方式，俺们学了的小东西，比较就是小东西啊，等要我学了这个嘛的呀，你在这个样这样的。
So, all these actions that we are performing of our life now are stored in like like in the computer, and if one has if one has performed negative actions, then one can purify those negative actions through the means of Dharma, and if one has performed positive actions, then seeing that one has performed positive action, then one can increase or one can even progress that kind of action by performing again. So all these actions, negative and positive actions, are left in our the imprint of all these positive and negative actions are left in our consciousness, just like you store the programs in the computer.
我这应该怎么讲？这里边这两个就是正的来是有年轻人是主要的，因为那三个方面讲，你讲我们的人把到时候你就好了，说到你把小东西这个一些你先带，小东西来这，那叫起码你忙把它养，你要往要学多，那不可能的已经破坏这个对那个养，那他就是那个方法，那年小一个就好多难的这个，前面这个。
So now we have obtained this perfect human rebirth, and through this, one has, if one has created negative action in our past lives, then through this perfect human rebirth, we can practice Dharma, and through the means of Dharma, one can purify those negative actions. And in order to have good rebirth in the future life, one can again create more merits and positive actions. So as being as a human being, we have all these potentials.
都起来，这个这个嘛，就趁着是刚才我这趁着嘛，真都起来，趁着是往这个丢的，我觉得这趁着嘛，趁着上个啥这个嘛，满足的意思。
So then one should believe that that whatever kind of suffering that we encounter in this life, is the negative action that one has performed in our past life. And all the happiness, comfort and happiness that we experience in this life, such as like having good wealth or good body, and happy in a happy state. That's the result of positive actions.
And this one that then that's the other problem. I mean, share that through
actually, there is different kinds of practices, like very surprising different kind of practices, according to different religions. And actually, the Buddhism or the Buddha Dharma is very extensive, and also the motivation for that is very extensive. And that one should motivate one's practice of loving kindness and compassion to all the beings who has mind. Not only to somebody and to have loving kindness or compassion towards somebody, and not to have other people. That's not real practice of loving kindness and compassion. So as long as beings have the mind, any kind of like the beings who have mind, whether they're very little, they're hard, even hard to see, or they're so huge and with a big body, whether the sentient beings are small or mind, small or big, doesn't matter. One should have, one should have the loving kindness and compassion towards all the beings equally, since they all wish, although they have this body, they still wish to have happiness and do not wish to have suffering. And also, even they have big body and a huge body, they still wish to have happiness and do not want to have suffering.
다만 지역에는 미식 주고 지역에는 많은 거. 미식다 민데 저 맞는 다래 맞아 지금 미식로가 되면 저는 지금 내가 지금 가르쳐 주냐는 때문에 지역에 강마를 하는 또 사단이 여러분 나 때문에 지역 요즘
And the practice of Dharma is not only practiced by somebody, and doesn't have to practice by others. The Dharma, Dharma should be practiced by everyone. Whether they're intelligent or foolish, or whether they're powerful or weak. It doesn't matter. According to their merits, according to their dispositions, the Dharma is taught, and there is the practice, to be done, and according to one's potentials.
가라스만 그 도마간자가 쉬었다고 하면 주장도 그거 중요하다. 그거 좀 봤다. 그거 중요하다. 그거 중요해야 되는 문제가 아니었다. 네. 맞아. 그거 중요하려면 하는데 좀 더 가는 거 같아. 하는 것도 다시 뭐 나는 간간하면 시야를 때 맞은 사람 뭐 방마를 때 나는 시야 여러 주잖아. 그래야
So in the Buddha's Dharma, Buddha's teaching, there are many kinds of teachings, like the teachings of low vehicle or teachings of the high vehicle, great vehicle, and also it's also in low vehicle there's teachings of the healers and solitary realizers, and also in the great vehicle there's the teachings of sutra and tantra. So according to one's capability, one can do the practices. And one can do the practice, and one is able to do that.
다시 남담 모이가 생각하는 식만 좀 아니지 아니 담아도 모르게 가져가 들어가 집에 피하는 가져가 들어가 눈에 피하는 가져가 들어가 집에 나는 아주 가져가 나가서는 가져가 차이 모르 가져가 나는 여기서는 가져가 차이 모르 가져가 들어가면 가져가 가져가 이리로 들어가 가져가 차이 가져가는 게 들어가 가져가 차이 어떻게 나는 야 가나 가는 가져가 그러면 어떻게
So since there are many kinds of teachings, so for any kind of beings, some kind of teaching and some kind of teaching will be fit for any kind of beings. Like for some, for some the lower Wicca's teaching, would be fit for somebody, and maybe for somebody the higher Wiccas, even in the higher Wicca, for some the sutra practice will be suitable, and for some the tantra practice will be suitable, and for in the lower Wicca, for some the healers Wicca will be suitable, and for some the solitary religious Wicca will be suitable. And the practice of Dharma is not forced by anybody. If you do not wish to practice Dharma, nobody will force you. It's nothing which is done by the force of others. If you have wish, then you have many kinds of teachings. You can choose whichever is suitable and beneficial for you. If you practice that, and if you do not wish to have, you don't have to do that.
가려서는 완전 단계로 써드려야 한 단고 단계 써드리는 사람이 단고 그 지금 나오죠. 저는 분명히 없는 그 말씀드렸어요. 여기 안에 사람이 야다 때문에 그래서 관계는 어디 있어요? 근데 이렇게 이렇게 우리가 그게 빠져 누가는 통화를 듣는 거예요. 하나 통화를 지금 통화를 듣는 거 누가 하나 가서 한번 듣는 게 관계
So Buddha Sakyamuni himself, once, he himself was like an ordinary being like ourselves now. Through practicing, through depending on the teachers, and through practicing the path, he gradually eradicated all the faults and gained all kind of knowledge, and and then that's how he reached it, the state of full enlightenment. And this is what this is what he's showing to us. He's teaching, and this, by following his teachings, then we can become like him. That's why, we consider Buddha, to be very high and precious.
What you got on the floor of Honan to send below upon the human on the below coming 3 hours, some other coming 3 hours, below coming what is 3 hours.
And through, depending on the Dharma, one can eradicate many, problems of this life and future lives. So there are many people, who encounter so many problems in their life, and through meeting with Dharma and practicing that Dharma, they have, solved their problems. And when people they have a problem with their mind, then since the Buddha's teaching is to solve the problems of the mind, and through dealing with that, all the problems will be solved. So anyway, whatever kinds of things that help, during when we have problems, then that one we all should regard as as a good instruction or good lesson. And not only that, but the root of the Buddha's teaching is dependent upon compassion. So the Buddha, when he teaches Dharma, he's motivated with compassion, and also, when we listen to Dharma or practice the Dharma, if it is motivated with compassion, then that will be very good. Through depending on the Dharma, one can solve so many problems of this life. But if one practices Dharma, just to solve the problems of this life, then that is not called Dharma practice. And like when we practice Dharma, one practice Dharma to solve the problems of this life, and those who have even greater mind, can we practice the Dharma in order to solve not only the problems of this life, but to solve the problems of many future lives. And even then, those who have even kinder and even kind heart, those can practice Dharma not only to solve their problems in this life or future life, but also to solve the problems of other beings. There are different kinds of beings with different state of mind, Like some they can solve the problems of this life, and some they can solve the problems of future life, and some they can even solve the problems of this cycle existence, or even they can abandon psychology, like attaining liberation, or some even they can attain the state of full enlightenment for the benefit of all sentient beings.
아무래도 지하도 그 강에서 발표가 된 거는 사단으로 이야기하는 적이고 그야다 방야다 그만 쓰기는 권내 같은 거예요.
So the the part the part of the teaching that that solves your problems of this life and the many future lives, and if you hear, contemplate, and meditate on that, then that will be very good.
그러니까 가지고 있으니까 서로 가서 제가는 강에 서로 가서 또 가지고 있으면 서로 가서 그러니까 꼭 강에 서로 가서
So if you practice only only some kind of dharma, only some kind of dharma, then you can solve only some kind of problems.
저희가 그 강에 상마세 연구 생각되는데 금주 쳐보자. 강에 상마세 되는
So then one should develop a strong courage, thinking that I will study all the whole path, which solves all the problems.
이는 안에 강의 차단세 동계 람차단 유명하면 저투고 말을 했는데 선배 준 거라 봐. 나는 저투고 투나 막 투는다 라고 맞tum나요. 근데 차단이 뭐가 지고 산다 산다 맞잖아. 진짜만 하는 거 가져다 그 발에는 그 강의 차단세야 하는 감수단이 뭐냐 하는 걸 consider 하는 거 가지고 좀
So one might even think that even one have the wish, but one can't do that. But just to have wish is very very important. Now, although one won't be able to practice the whole path in which solves all the problems, but if one can just have the wish, then that will be very good also. But if one doesn't even have the wish, then that will then without having wish, one cannot do that. So that without having that wish, that will one won't be able to do that practice even in the future. So one gains the potential to do that. So it's not like the business. In order to do business, big business, we have to have big capital. If we don't have big capital, but if we start to do big business, then that will bring only disaster in the end. So, but in Dharma practice, it's not like that. So, but if you say I'm going to do a big Dharma practice, but even you can't do it right now, but however you will leave imprint in your mind to be able to do in the future. But it's not same as same in the business. Like without having big capital, we cannot do big business. Just thinking that thinking to do big business without having capital, big capital now. But if you think that just by thinking to have thinking to do big business, you will be able to do in the future. If you think like that, then that's not right. Because the business is not any kind of like good heart. So because in business mainly we are concerned about oneself, to gain benefit for oneself, or gain profit for oneself, and to lose other people. So through the Dharma, the Dharma practice, through having that the wish to do great Dharma practice, one will leave imprint in one's mind. So therefore, it will be beneficial in the future. So, in order to practice the Buddha's teaching, it's not necessary to be a Buddhist. We can just take the good things, good advices, good instructions from the Buddhism, from the teaching, and then or even you believe in other religions, but we can still practice that that instruction. Also, it's same with other religions. If there's any good instructions or advice in other religions, then you can take from that and you practice that, even you are Buddhist. So, in order to do the practice of that particular religion, you don't have to, enter in that religion. Or so, like, in order to practice the Buddha's teaching, you don't have to like become a Buddhist. You can just take the good points of that and then, practice that. It's not necessary for you to become Buddhist. But also, if you have wished to become Buddhist, then no one can stop you, and it's up to you. If you have wished, then you can become Buddhist also. Since there are many good advices, so therefore, if you listen to that, you contemplate on that, meditate on that, then that will be beneficial for yourself. So, actually, there's nowhere one can complete the practice of the Buddha's teaching very easily and soon, because once you start practicing, it becomes even more and more profound, and this becomes more and more profound, and it's not that easy to complete practicing. And all the Buddha's teachings are not translated, but there are many teachings like there are about 100 volumes of scriptures in which is translated into Tibetan. So you can see from the number of the books, that how extensive it is. So the reason why there are so many kinds of teachings is because there are so many kinds of delusions in our mind. Actually, there are like 84,000 years of delusions within our mind. So because we have these 84,000 kinds of delusions, so therefore, in order to eliminate these 84,000 delusions, he composed these 84,000 heaps of doctrine. So, what is the main activity? The function of the Dharma is that to subdue the mind that is, mind which is not subdued or which is violent. So if one has subdued one's mind, that's good enough. One doesn't have to fly in the. It's not necessary. One doesn't have to fly in the sky or sink in the ground. Or doesn't have to show any other surprising miracle signs. So even if one's mind is not subdued, and even one is able to fly in the sky or have clairvoyance and have miracle powers, then there's no use. So why is it so necessary for us to subdue our mind? Is because through subduing the mind, then one receives or achieves peace and happiness. So since we all wishes to have peace and happiness, so if we wish to have peace and happiness, then one should know the instructions that are contained in the books. So those instructions cannot be learned just by looking in the book. So what one should do is that one should listen as much as one can, and one should also read the books, read from the books, and use many kinds of methods, to know that to know about the teaching that one is going to practice. And first of all, one has to listen, to the teaching. One has to gain so many hearings, and so after hearing, then one should contemplate. When one has when one has the strong wisdom of contemplation, then after that, then one should start to meditate. Now, one shouldn't begin the meditation without having without hearing or contemplating anything. If one just try to meditate, then then one won't be able to meditate anything. Because one hasn't heard and hasn't contemplated. Now, and one is not one doesn't know what kind of what is to meditate upon. So without having this the wisdom of hearing and wisdom of contemplation, doing meditation is impossible, and unless one is just meditating on instead of nothingness. There are some people who actually do this kind of meditation. They stop all the kind of other all kind of thoughts all the good and bad thoughts, and then they just meditate on nothingness. So maybe temporarily when you avoid everything and just meditate on nothingness, maybe for temporary you find some kind of peace and happiness. There are many people who does this kind of meditation. So temporarily it's very kind of peace and happiness. When you meditate on such state of nothingness, you avoid you negate all other kind of thoughts. You avoid all the wisdoms and everything, and then you meditate on nothingness. At the time, for some time, it brings kind of peace and happiness. But then, then one leaves an imprint in one's mind, to be born, as a animal or as a foolish being, because one has practiced to stop all one's wisdom. So therefore, one will be born. Being with being like a foolish or foolish dumb or like animals. So also there are many types of meditations, such as analytical meditation or like placement meditation and so on. And there's also practice of karma avoiding, the practice to gain the realization of karma avoiding. That's different again. So when one is practice to gain the realization of karma avoiding, then one has only one object of meditation, one single object of meditation. So you just focus completely focus on that object, and then until you gain that realization of karma abiding, you cannot change the object. You should always remain on that that single object. So, to some people, at the beginning they are asked to meditate on mind, on the nature of on the mind, and when they are meditating on the mind and they're only focusing on a single object, mind. But then, when they're taught numbering or the gradual path to enlightenment, then they think, this is too much, too many information, too much information, and I cannot meditate on that. So they think this is a very different, but there's a different way of meditation. Meditating on just one object and meditating on other many parts are different. So, like when you're doing meditation, when you meditate on mind, then you just focus on the mind, and through that meditation, if you are able to gain the realization of karma abiding, then that's very good. But if you are not able to do that, then and not having, wishing to hear and contemplate about the graduate, about the teaching on graduate path to enlightenment, and not even gaining the realization of karma abiding, then you get lost from both sides.